Webheads, are you ready for
Worthy Ones?
the newest series that explores the #1 issues that came out from comic shops, and I deem them worthy or not worthy. And this week we have 5 #1 issues that I picked up, and we're gonna go through them all and see if I'm going to continue to read them or not continue to read them. I'm gonna grade them. This is gonna be a lot of fun. I'm gonna explore some things while I'm trying out this series. You guys let me know in the comments below on what you think. So let's dive into it. The first book that we're gonna talk about is from Boom Studios, and this one is Mosley. This is issue 1. Now, when I first saw this book, I was like, you know what? It's Boom. They've come up with a lot of great books, mostly on the horror side of things. This book was a little bit different. It did not have so much horror, but it did have to do with a gentleman who was part of the army or the military, and they asked him to do a certain assignment that had to do with technology, okay? And it seems like technology has taken over the world because we fast forward to the future. Let's check out the artwork in this comic book. As you can see, the artwork is not too bad in it. I love the characters' facial expressions. Again, this takes place into the future, and he has this on-again, off-again relationship with his daughter, and obviously there was a falling out with his family in this book, and you're kind of just like, okay, well, we don't see all that, right? However, this guy gets attacked by technology at the end of the issue, and he's granted Thor-like powers. And now all of a sudden, he is this type of superhero, and you're kind of like, oh, interesting, and this is what he looks like here, right? So like, he's an old, broken down janitor, got chosen to be the chosen one. Interesting, right? Here is the thing about this comic. You have to like this character, and you found yourself kind of like going, well, I want to know more about the character. Like, I want to know more about his past. And in the beginning of this book, you got to see things happen where he was sent on this mission, and he was going to this neighborhood, and he was to teach robots things, and they called them pupils. And I guess this was the beginning of technology possibly taking over the world. In that part of the story, I was really interested because I was like, oh, where they're going with this could get really dark. But then we fast forward into the future too quickly, and I was like, wait, slow that down. Are we only going to see this janitor in the future with him being this superhero-like character? I don't know if I like that as much as I did when they did the introduction to the story. So hopefully they dive deeper into his past, because I want to see how the whole world kind of fell apart and got taken over by robots. We've read this story before. We've seen this movie before, right? But at the end of the day, I'm going to deem this comic worthy. That's right, guys. I feel like there was enough here to give me an issue 2, and I want to see if they dive into that past. Now, if they don't give me any of the past history of this character, I might drop it from there. But there was enough here to hook me. Okay, the next book we're going to be talking about is Children of the Black Sun. This is issue 1. This is from Ablaze. Now, last year's big hit from Ablaze for me was Life Zero. It was a zombie book. This book has to deal with like a Children of the Corn effect. It literally is almost the same title. Instead of Children of the Corn, it's called Children of the Black Sun, and it has that very similar tone to it. Okay, let's check out the artwork in this one. So the artwork in this one starts off with like scribbling drawings and whatnot, but it's this boy who is doing this project at school, explaining that there was this phenomenon that has happened where the sun has set, and one day, the next day, the black sun arose. And then what happened is people went into a dark depression. They wound up killing themselves, thinking it's the end of the world. And then one day, the black sun went away. But years later, it wound up coming back again. And people did all the same things, and, you know, things started going massively wrong. And it was a pretty dark event that happened. and then the sun set again, and the sun has come back. Now people in the town are kind of wondering, is it going to happen again? But the main result that we get in this comic book is that you wind up getting these kids that are from the Black Sun. Now, every mother that was pregnant during the Black Sun event gave birth to these children who are basically have all blonde hair and red eyes. And studies have been done where they've come out completely normal, that there's no abnormalities to these children, right? But when you get to the end of into the end of the book, you find out there's older kids. There's two sets of kids. There's a younger generation from the second Black Sun, and then there's an older generation of the first Black Sun. And their powers, they seem to have powers they have manifested. It seems like they have manipulation and they can bring things to life. Very interesting story. I wasn't really keen on the artwork. It took a while to get to where the book was actually going. The one downside to this book is the font. It's so tiny to read, the word bubbles. I don't know if you can see that because of the ring light. There it is. And so you're kind of like straining to read it, and that's me getting old too, not being able to read such small font. But it was a very interesting concept for the story. And at the end of the day, I'm very curious to see if these children are going to bond together. Is there going to be another Black Sun? I'm going to deem this book worthy as well. If I had to grade this book, I'd probably give this book a B-. This was a pretty interesting read. Again, it took a while for it to get there. Going back to Mosley, if I had to grade Mosley, this is one that I wanted to do on the letter grades. I'm probably going to give Mosley like a C+, okay? All right, let's move forward with a book that I was really on the fence to buy. And this one was because I was like, oh, I don't know. You know, it's Joe Fixit, never really been into the character. And it was Peter David who wrote it. And you know what? I wanted to support Peter David. He's been through a rough time, in and out of the hospital and things like that. So I was like, you know what? I'm gonna look at Joe Fixit. So I was like, I was at the shop, I saw it, I looked inside the book, and I'm like, oh wow. Well, who do I see? I see the Kingpin. And I'm like, okay, that's pretty cool. And then the next person I see in there is Peter Parker. I'm like, okay, this is really good. We got Peter Parker, we got the Kingpin, and yes, we got Spider-Man. So I'm like, you know what? It's got all that in there. Why not definitely give it a chance now? So this book got better as I started reading it. And Joe Fixit, you know, lives he's in charge of this particular casino, and he's taken it over, and it's obviously the Hulk, but people don't realize it's the Hulk, and it's so weird. Like, just because he's gray and he wears a suit, it's not the Hulk. And also because he's smart, right? And so Peter's running into the Kingpin in the airport, and he realizes that he's going to go to where Joe Fixit actually is. So he's going to try to intervene in this whole situation, and he realizes that he's going to be in some trouble, right? So Kingpin tries to take over this Coliseum, and it's just a complete failure. And I never seen Kingpin get his ass beat so bad by the Hulk. It was actually really comical. And the artwork in the book was really a lot of fun. I love the facial expressions. I love how confident Joe Fixit actually is as well. And by the end of the day, Joe Fixit sits there and says, Kingpin, you're out of here. You gotta leave. And then Kingpin in his limousine changes his mind, and he turns around and he's going to come back. But what happens in that limousine is a moment that makes you laugh out loud, and you're just like, yeah, I can't wait for this. And when I got done reading this book, I was like, wow, this was just a lot of fun. And it did remind me of simpler time in comics, right? Where not everything had to be event. It was just well written, nice balance of action and story, and some of the favorite classic characters that you love, right? So this book is also deemed worthy. That's right. And if I had to grade this one, this book was a B+. I really enjoyed this one a lot. All right. Next, this book I've been waiting for a long time. And it's written by Patrick Shan. This is Gangster Ass Barista. This is issue 1, Black Mass Studios. This is a very well-written book. Now, I have actually interviewed Pat Shan before on Comic Book Weekly when we did interviews over there with creators, and Pat is a really nice guy, really talented. He was pretty much the guy in charge at Zenescope Entertainment. He was in control of a lot of their stuff and wrote a lot of stuff for a while, and now he's doing this independent book, and this book is perfect. Like, perfect story. The only thing that I have is that the artwork is black, the book is black and white. And I would love to see this book in color because there's so many great facial expressions in this book from our main character by the name of Trinity that it just makes you laugh at times, right? There's this one instance where she's holding this baby and she goes, I think your baby just had a shit, because she was holding a baby for somebody, and it was hilarious. It was so funny, man. Really great stuff in this book, but that was the one downfall. There was a lot of dialogue in here, but it never really held the story down because you felt what this character was going through, and you were never bored by it. So there was just really great character development of a character that you'd never known before. And that's what's going to make a great comic book, because if you can fall in love with that character, you're going to want to continue to read that comic, right? And so this book is about a girl who has a shaded past. You don't know really what that past is, and her name is Trinity, and she works at this place called the Coffee Bean or something like that. It's like a Starbucks, right? In New York. Her life is just garbage, right? She has nothing to look forward to every day. She treats the customers like bad people, and she gets her manager that's always on her, and she tells him to F off. But what happens in this book is there is a fight that actually happens, okay? And this guy had this huge amount of cash, and our main character finds that bag of cash. It gets misplaced in the fight that happened in the Coffee Bean. So she's like, oh man, what should I do with this money? And she winds up going shopping to get food and stuff like that. And she winds up paying her rent. And she plans on holding on to this money, And let's just say the people come back looking for that money. And what she does to hold on to that money is kind of hysterical. Now, I said she has a checkered past. She belonged to a gang, and you get to see that at the end of this issue. I cannot wait for the next issue of this. I got to make sure I put it on the pull list because, again, this is done by Black Mask. My shop will maybe have 1 or 2 copies of this book, if that. But this was a really well-told story. You will like the character Trinity. If you can go to the shop, definitely pick this one up. This book is deemed worthy. That's right, guys. And as a grade, I got to give this one an A-. If I had a little bit of color in this book, it would have brought those characters to life a little bit more, and maybe a little less narration as it took away from the artwork as well. Okay, so now we move on to the book that is probably one of the more anticipated books of the first week of this new year, and this goes to Scarlet Witch. This is issue 1. I got this homage cover. This one, instead of Vision being on there, it's Scarlet Witch, so I thought that one was kind of cool. This one is written by Steve Orlando, and I can honestly say that, based off of his track record when it came to Marauders, I was like, I don't know. We'll see how it goes, but it could be a good book. And then you got Sarah Pichelli on the artwork, which I like Sarah Pichelli's artwork. I think it's good. However, in this issue, it just, I don't know. It seemed off. It seemed flat. And I don't know if it had to do with the coloring or maybe the inking in here. It just seemed like what the characters were experiencing in the comics, the character emotions didn't match up right, if that makes sense. And so I felt that it was just off at certain times, okay? Now, what did this comic have to offer? Well, let's talk about this one. So, in the beginning, you get to see Scarlet Witch go on this brief adventure because, you know, she's always doing something and she solves a problem there. And then you get introduced to what is going on in her life right now. So, she runs this emporium. It's kind of like this undercover type of, I don't know, thing to where she can help people in need, right? So she has this emporium. Darcy from the Disney Plus show, what the fuck is it called? WandaVision is in this comic book as she's running the emporium, and you get to see Quicksilver in this book, which is kind of cool because you haven't seen Quicksilver in here as well. And there's this red door that she creates. So this red door is this door for people that are in a dire need. This is the door that they go through. So you wind up going to see this woman that goes through the last door, and she's in need of Scarlet Witch's help. And the journey or this first mission that she goes on is just very lackluster to me. I was bored to death. It was the villain known as the Corruptor corrupting her town. Scarlet Witch had to go and save the day. It was a very almost point A to point B issue. I guess basically they wanted to do this so you can get an idea of what the characters' personalities are going to be like, what Scarlet Witch is going to be doing, and also for the last page, we get introduced to Viv once again, which is Vision's daughter. So that's where the story actually is going to get started here. If you understand what I'm saying. So, you know, at the end of the day, I kind of fell for the trap. I fell for the cliffhanger because I like Viv as a character and I want to know what happens next. And I'm not sure if this is going to be a good comic yet. So, at the end of the day, I'm going to deem this comic not worthy because it was very boring. For an first issue, I just was like, man, this is so dumb. And I had to wait to the very last issue or last page to get something out of this book. Does that lead me to believe that this comic book right here is going to be written like this every single issue? There was like 6 pages in there where they were just sitting around drinking. I don't need to read that. So I'm really on the fence if I'm going to continue this book to see where the story is going. If you don't have the cash, don't buy this book. It's not very good, okay? I did not like Scarlet Witch all that much. So this book is going to be on the fence for me. And if I had to rate this book, I would probably rate it a D. It was not very good at all. So I'm very curious to hear what you guys thought if you read this book. So there you guys have it. There is the first episode of The Worthy Ones. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. I might make some tweaks here or there. If you have any suggestions, let me know in the comments below. But these were the first #1s I read of the year. And guys, if you love my content, more content's right here. This is my comic book haul. Some of you guys are asking about After the Poll. It is returning, but it is on Sundays when I can do them because it is on the weekend. But it's definitely a series that is being continued. So there you guys have it. As always, keep buying, keep collecting, but most importantly, you gotta always read those comics. Guys, thank you so much. Have a great day.